Welcome to the Growth Minded Accountant podcast, where our experts will share best practices on running your firm in the digital age. This podcast is brought to you by CountingWorks Pro. Let's get started.
Thank you for joining us today for another episode of the Growth Minded Accountant. My name is Lee Reams. I'm the founder and CEO of CountingWorks and our sister company, TaxBuzz.com. And today we are going to be talking about segmenting, and in particular, segmenting smarter and understanding kind of the philosophical, the psychology behind what people are looking for in different segments, which we're going to teach you. And more importantly, what kind of services you should offer to each of these groups. So we're really going to focus kind of on high value individuals and the services they actually want. As usual, I am joined today with Rebecca Barton, our Chief Visibility Officer. Rebecca, if you could say hello.
Hey, everybody. I'm excited to get into this today.
And this is a fun topic, specifically with all the hubbub going on right now. I read another update on the big, beautiful bill that's going through the House. They actually call it the big, beautiful bill, which is awesome. That's, I guess, good branding as they put this thing through. And the hotly contested debate again on extending the Trump tax cuts, what kind of changes, any retroactive stuff. So there's going to be a lot of issues for you as a tax and accounting firm to talk about to your clients, right? So there's going to be some tax planning strategies. If nothing happens, analysis from the Tax Foundation, I think, said that up to 62% of people today will have a tax increase if this bill is not, if something doesn't happen, right? So if everything starts expiring, this is going to be a big hit to all of our clients' pocketbooks, right? So it's going to be really important to dig in and educate them, help them be proactive on offering tax planning strategies. So we're going to talk today about individual clients, especially the ones that we think are worth building your firm around. So, it's kind of saying that depending on where you're targeting, different types of 1040s, if you're after high volume, low cost type of people, you'll have a different strategies. There's very low margins there. It's hard to be profitable. And as more and more commoditization happens in the tax prep world, I feel that kind of moving upstream to higher valued clients makes a lot of sense. So these are clients that will pay you $3,000, $6,000 a year to help them make smarter moves if you know how to speak to their needs. So today's podcast is going to be shorter. If you've gone to the last three, I apologize for the length. I know there's a lot of good info in there. If you have missed them, we talked about kind of the three stages of starting your own firm. Would be the first one, W-2 to CEO. The next one is someone like a solopreneur, 150 to 250, how to grow to the next million. And then once you get to $1 million, you can't just rely, you can't be everything to the firm if you want to continue growing. So if you have not watched those, I think they're definitely worth your time. Pick the one where you are in your transition and look at them. We have them on YouTube, Apple, all the normal podcast channels. So definitely check that out. So as we talk today, let's talk first the what I'm going to call section one of this topic is the problem is one size fits all individual services, right? So if you're most firms, your service menu for individuals probably looks like this. You have tax prep, maybe you do a tax projection, and then maybe a mid-year check-in if you're lucky. A lot of firms don't sit down and kind of look at this as more of a process and almost like a scientific, repeatable process. And that's fine if you're looking for low fee, high volume work. But if you're trying to grow, you need to start segmenting your individual clients. And I asked, Rebecca, you have experience with this. I asked my staff, and this is a very unscientific, but we talked about, when we get new clients and we onboard them, what percentage of them, when they do their initial import, actually have segmented their client base. And I'm even talking the very basic. These are my individuals versus my nonprofits versus business clients, not even getting into these individuals are service businesses versus manufacturing, et cetera. But they said the report back to me unscientifically is about 20% at max. So Rebecca, when you talk to clients, like, do you is it because it's hard to do? Is it time consuming? Not that they don't have the tools to do it, or are they just not thinking strategically that, there's different segments and perhaps I should change my messaging and my service types per segment?
I would say 90% of them just aren't thinking strategically about segmentation. It's physically not that hard to do. There is a subset of individuals, obviously, who are just not tech savvy, physically don't know how to go in and segment, even if they would like to. But the vast majority of them haven't even thought about it. All they think of is sending general content to all of their clients, and they don't recognize the importance of segmenting them and sending high value material that focuses on that particular group's needs.
So let's just break that down a little bit. And what I'm going to do next is kind of give you a couple examples of some advisory segments, like premium advisory segments that you should look for. But why would I, perhaps as a doctor, want to see different information than if I were a freelancer or I was, driving Uber or something like that? So, like, kind of give an idea, maybe talk to the audience, and otherwise it's ignored. Will we have higher conversion rates, higher readership? Will they refer more people? Will they actually reach out for more services? Kind of explain how that works.
Yeah, we'll break the fourth wall here. So if you are serving Uber drivers and doctors, those are two completely different lifestyles, completely different types of people who have completely different tax needs, completely different income levels. In the case of medicine, they're facing regulatory issues that, Uber drivers just don't have. There's a lot to this, and every industry is unique. So no matter who you're focusing on, I know we're using those as examples, but whatever industry you're targeting, there are going to be pain points, news articles, upcoming tax changes that are pertinent specifically to those people. For example, if you can deduct gasoline charges for being an Uber driver, that's not going to affect doctors at all in most cases. So just kind of understanding the pain points that these people have, wear and tear on a vehicle for an Uber driver compared to, pricey office equipment. Can that be deducted for a doctor who might be investing in, high-tech software, high-tech scanning equipment, that type of thing. So there's lots and lots of different topics here that you can go into in segmented content, whether that's a newsletter that you segment, social media content that you segment, emails, however you choose to go about it. Every single group of people has unique information that they need to hear. Once they hear something that is of value to them specifically, they're going to call you to ask questions about how you can help. They're going to refer their friends who are also in the same industry. And then it gets into this snowball effect that I like to talk about, where you just start getting referral after referral, or you start becoming kind of the go-to person for that industry because you've sent out things that are valuable and that actually hold weight.
Yeah, and I think that obviously makes sense. And let's talk perhaps about some different premium segments that you can start looking at in your own practice, and whether you have them already as clients or you can start targeting them with your messaging, your newsletter, your blog, your social posts, et cetera. So I'm going to go the first one, which is the tech employee or the equity comp professional, right? So think a developer, an engineer, a product manager, a startup exec, anyone in the tech industry, right? So what are their pain points? They might have restricted stock, incentive stock. They have AMT exposure. There's employee stock purchase plans. There's all sorts of different things that are much more complex than a standard Uber driver's tax return would look like, right? So they just don't want tax prep. They don't want to get hit with a surprise tax when they're exercising these options. Perhaps they should have exercised earlier when they vested, whatever. There's ways to plan around this. So the advisory angle here is, an annual equity comp review, for example, tax efficient ways to exercise, these are strategies to exercise stock, tax planning around liquidity events. These are topics that you can narrate around. So create content around this, communicate this to your clients, and then you can develop your services and even your packages around that. So start there. There's one highly valuable group. These people are willing to spend money. Their tax liability sometimes is very large. So this is really important to them. Segment two, we just hinted at it a little bit: doctors, lawyers, sales executives. So anyone that is a high W-2 income, and perhaps they have limited write-offs, right? So I say they're often clueless about how to legally reduce their taxes. So what are some advisory angles here? Perhaps they should create an entity, maybe a side hustle. Maybe look at backdoor Roth IRA strategies, spouse income planning, multi-state filing optimization. There's a lot of different ways to look at that as well. And then I'm going to lead into the dual income households with complex returns. So Lots of times these are people that make a lot of money. They're making combined $500,000, $600,000. They have children. They might own real estate. They, may have a 529 plan. They may even have some employees, working like a nanny or something like that. They want peace of mind. They want to know that they are stable, that they have a future, that if they keep on a plan, they're going to be able to see their growth increase over time. So they're not just looking for a tax return. They're looking for this entire vision of where their lives are going, right? So what is an advisory angle here? Quarterly planning. Now you're getting this? Oh, quarterly planning. I could put this in a package. I can charge quarterly. So I do quarterly planning. I do cash flow analysis. I look at deductions. How can I maximize them? I look at financial goal alignment. How can your strategies align with what you want? How much money do you want when you retire? What's enough? What is the lifestyle you want to live? Can I afford to put my children through college? Are my kids going to be well off, when they get older, right? So there's a lot of different things you can look at here. So now I'm going to kind of throw back from, these are some segments that you can look at in building a top level advisory. But now let's talk about the services they actually want. So if you're trying to upsell, you don't lead with features, you lead with outcomes. And Rebecca, let's explain this a little bit better. Again, from a copy narrative standpoint, often I see accountants, these are all the bullet points of what you get, not you are going to have twice as much money, or you're going to, save tens of thousands of dollars in taxes each year, which the time value of money increases exponentially. Kind of explain how that works as far as creating that narrative.
Yeah, so like what you just explained, Lee, that's very kind of dry to people. They're not putting themselves in the person's shoes. What you want from a narrative standpoint, whenever you're doing content, whether it's a service page on your website, a blog post, a social post, you want to explain what you do in a way that's going to resonate with people. And that's something that you can do with narrative storytelling. It's something that we focus on a lot here. We really understand what sets you apart, what your passion is, why you got into this, how you can help your clients. And then we craft copy that puts them in the story. Like, hey, we see that this is your life. We see that this is what you're dealing with. And we are here to remove X, Y, and Z pain points from you so that you can focus on doing the things that you want to do and that you love to do. And the reason you got into whatever business this is in the first place. So I think what you really need to focus on is not just providing dry base level content, but craft something immersive that people can kind of step into and see themselves working with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And they can see that financial outcome, and they can see
Yes.
that happy faces and people out on the beach strolling because they've planned ahead and now they're living the life they want to. So, what are they actually buying? They don't want to overpay taxes. They don't have to, right? They want to know what's coming before the IRS does. They want to know, these are the tax law changes. These are the planning opportunities I do today. Where could things go if they go scenario A, scenario B? And then they want to feel confident that they're using every advantage available to them, every legal advantage. Obviously, we're not talking about anything gray area. But now what you do is you match those to services like your quarterly tax planning package. Break it down. It's pretty easy. Your annual financial strategy review, equity compensation strategy sessions, right? AI-generated tax snapshots with your expert guidance layered in, so human in the loop. What we're doing with CountingWorks Pro and Max. So we're able now to take all the data that you have on a client, for example, intake forms, any of your chats, even any of the tax returns, historical tax returns, documents they've uploaded. We're able now to scrape all that, and AI can analyze it and actually proactively come back to you. This tool I'm teasing right now, but it's a tool we're in development on, but proactively say, hey, these 10 clients should be doing X. These clients shouldn't just be tax prep. They fit into this type of profile. And then you can market to them, whether you send a proposal, do you say, hey, I think you should be doing quarterly tax planning packages because of this. And the narrative will be actually personalized per client based on the tools that we are creating. So what AI does is helps you as a human in the loop go through data that you never probably would and identify things that you may not have noticed, right? So I think it's really actually cool where things are going, and definitely think about this as you start developing these type of targeted campaigns. So the next question is, how do I deliver all of this without burning out? So, this doesn't mean more work, what we're talking about, right? So the right systems with tools like Max. There's a lot of different tools out there. I know Corby instead has some new tools that they're doing. You can still use ChatGPT. The problem with the generic chatbots, FYI, is they are not trained by humans on the tax code. So they're still taking a lot of things from the web. And what we see is the accuracy of a standalone chatbot versus a trained chatbot like TaxBuzz is Max or our Accounting Works is Max. Is the accuracy goes much, much higher. You're still the human in the loop. You still look at it. But think about it. If you can get a tax plan created automatically for a client that you can review and fine tune and then present to the client and then charge for that, and it only takes you 20 30 minutes to do this versus hours and hours and hours in the old days, you're going to be much more efficient. So AI can help you automatically generate client snapshots. You can create repeatable systems. We call them playbooks. That's what we're delivering to our clients. And with the playbooks, you can say, hey, playbook A is I want to work with HOAs and I want to identify all the issues that they should be working on or concerns or areas that they get themselves in trouble, and then use those playbooks to deliver your tax plans, deliver meeting summaries, things like that. Build your marketing, your voice around these high value personas, and then package everything as a fixed fee subscription. So let's talk about that a little bit. Accounting traditionally hourly based, or here's my chart. I charge X for this, X for this. What you're noticing now with AI tools, if everyone now has a tool that can build a tax plan in moments, and if you're charging by the hour, what are you going to say? It just took an extra 2 hours to develop the tax plan, or did it really make the tax plan in a few seconds? You went over it and fine-tuned it for 15 minutes. The reality here is fixed fee subscriptions in some respects are more comforting to the individual because they know there's no black box of hourly stuff, but they're seeing the value of what I'm getting. 100%, if designed properly, you can become almost like your own little SaaS business. So recurring revenue, that's the golden child. You don't have to wait for a client to call and put the clock on to bill. These are the kind of firms, they're more scalable. Client expectations are easier to understand. So I think you'll be much more successful. So how do you get started on something like this where we're targeting a segment? So you got to start with your client list. You got to audit it. So sort it by revenue, potential, who has added complexity, who has margin. We are working on tools too to help do a lot of the segmenting for people based on their historical data. We also have a tagging tool in Accounting Works Pro that allows you to create segments, and someone might be in multiple tags. So they might be a doctor, but they might also own some real estate or some other things. So they could be in kind of two different paths. So you're able to communicate with them. But once you've figured out what these different segments look like and who is going to be the most lucrative for me. So if I add 10 more doctors, and they're each paying me $6,000 a year, and that's kind of low. That's $60,000 in additional revenue. That means adding less of a doctor a month, right? To a higher end package. So that's if you're new prospecting. But even if you had, let's say, 350 tax prep clients, if you segment them, I guarantee you at least 50 are going to be potentials for higher revenue. So 50 times 6,000, let's say in the average, that's 300,000 in additional revenue. More importantly, you're going to have better financial outcomes for them. You're going to do a better service. So this is why this is so important. So what would I do? I would build 2 to 3 premium service packages specifically for high income individuals. And let's talk about this, Rebecca, from a buying perspective. If I'm a higher end person, I usually go to, let's say I'm buying a car, I'm usually not going to Nissan unless I'm really frugal. Maybe I'm someone who expects certain nice things. So I go to the Mercedes dealership, for example. I am looking then for premium packages that are tailored so I'm not being nickel and dimed. So Amazon's coming out with their new truck. It's a low, bones truck, EV. It's like 20-some thousand a year. And it literally is where you can add stuff and delete stuff. But a premium service person, they're going to want the nicer things. They're going to want that luxury Bose system. They're going to want heated seats. They're not going to want to have to start at a base level and then get nickel and dimed up where I have to add everything. like the Amazon truck I'm building myself. That's a different market. Amazon truck going after the Walmart, the H&R Block, the TurboTax market. You're now trying to go upstream. So you're going the Bentley, the Rolls Royce, the Mercedes Benz. So explain a little bit of how that works when you're putting these packages together, Rebecca. For one, not just the services there, but if you're doing it for an individual group, so that tech startup group, what is the kind of language I would use in even my packaging and the way I present it versus how I do it for my doctors?
So you need to think about, like you just said, Lee, really think about who these people are and what they want. And you can actually think about things like, what is Mercedes doing to target these people? What is Apple doing? What are other high-end brands doing? What kind of messaging are they using? What kind of verbiage are they using? And kind of mimic that tone. Obviously not the exact syntax, but you want to deliver something that makes people feel that you are authentic, trustworthy, and premium. So as long as you can manage that, you're probably going to be in good shape. Again, look for inspiration at people who are already doing it well. There are lots of brands that are already doing this very well. Apple always comes to mind. I know I already said them, but they've carved out a huge niche as the premium electronics retailer by doing things that are very simple, very easy to understand, very easy to use, very trustworthy. And you can do that with your pricing. Lay things out very simply on your website, have a well-designed minimal pricing page or pricing block that tells people exactly what services that they're getting and at exactly what cost every month or every quarter. And another thing, just from a branding standpoint, it can help to give these names. Call it the executive package, or you could even go silver, gold, platinum, whatever you want to do. But don't just call it like bookkeeping plus tax planning package. Give it an actual name, make it feel high end, make it feel exclusive. And then people are going to be a lot more likely psychologically to jump on board as well.
Yeah, I like the idea of exclusive. You want to feel like you're getting information that others are not. You have a secret way to be more successful. And I gave an example when I wrote a blog about this. It's, your messaging shouldn't be, no more, we do taxes. It's more like, hey, we help high earners keep more of what they make, right? So you got to just follow that. It makes total sense, but you can't be this generic commodity level. We're not asking you, this isn't even like niching. This is just positioning. So if you're not, if you're not into niching down, so to speak, into like a specific category, all we're saying is your niche or your segment is high earners. Here's 3 categories of high earners that are highly lucrative. Now, how do I develop messaging around those? How do I now attract them, and how do I get them to refer more people like them, right? So if you get into a group like lawyers or doctors, they talk. And this is where they're not usually competitive with each other. So they're going to want to say, hey, this is what I use. Or if they ask for a referral, they'll proactively say, you won't believe what I just did. My accountant helped me say blah, 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 blah. This is what I did. I hear it all the time. Even in my personal life, water polo dads were walking the dogs on a weekend, and we're talking about people, and they bring up some tax issue, and then someone comes up with a tax strategy. Half of the time I'm like sitting there coming from my background going, oh my God, this seems really gray, man. I hope they don't get audited. But the reality is people talk. And I think if you're creating content around these different target segments, you're going to do really well. So how do you do this? How do you do it at scale? If you are a Accounting Works Pro client, you know now that we have automated content creation through our AI tools with your personality and your tone, writing like you would. This is not generic AI dribble. Okay, so you want to be able to give it as much personalization as possible, and we're even expanding that into doing even client narratives. So, what is this particular client? What is their background? What should we be talking about? What language should we be talking about? And it's amazing how it starts. We did some content for an accountant who specializes in breweries, and just even how it throws in, an IPA comment and just a bunch of different very specific terms and jargon that are used in the vertical. That is what speaks to people. So start looking at personalizing your content as much as possible. I think the old way of sending a campaign or blasting an email to many is going to become outdated very quickly. So we're going very personalized. We're doing playbooks that will get down to very targeted segments. I think that will be kind of the trends, or what will be the most successful here in the future. 100% start working on client-facing summaries. So what does your presentation look like? Maybe we analyze a return. Instead of just sending a return, send a voice note message about that return, or an AI-created summary that kind of says, here's what you should care about, not just look at a return and say yes or no, okay? That is something that you really should do. These are tools that are there today with tools like CountingWorks Pro. All you need to do is hit send. Hit some buttons, analyze it, send it. You're going to start looking great. So you don't need more clients. You need better aligned clients, okay? So clients who value your advice, not just your accuracy. And that's kind of what we're going for today. We have a full series here. So we started with individual segments. Next week, we're going to go to small businesses. So small business clients, we're going to basically say, how do you turn your business clients into advisory revenue without chasing more work, of course. So we want you guys to be able to expand your revenue, not necessarily, work more. So in our next episode, we're going to dive into the modern small and medium-sized business stack, and how to turn complexity and chaos into premium recurring revenue. So definitely check that out. Until then, please reach out to us on LinkedIn if you have any questions. We also have our website, countingworkspro.com, that kind of talks about our solution. So we're definitely looking to attract modern firms that want to grow, that want to save time, that are not stuck in the old processes. We want to, things are being upended right now. A lot of people don't know it. AI is not going to put you out of business. People that know how to use AI will. Okay, and that's kind of the belief I have, and where things are going, and it's growing leaps and bounds. So definitely, it's time to be excited. Really, we got Trump tax changes, a lot of opportunities to grow, a lot of opportunities for advisory, a lot of noise out there. That is a great time for the tax and accounting space to really help their clients save as much as possible. So until the next podcast, keep building your firm that you actually want to run, right? And you can do this. We're very confident. We're seeing clients make these changes recently in our new custom narratives. The new sites coming out are awesome. One of the best things about this, and when you segment too, is, and that one client that we just launched, the brewery client, I'll give an example. 2 days after, brand new pro, was working somewhere else, launched their own firm. 2 days later, I asked ChatGPT, not Max. I went just straight to ChatGPT. I said, hey, find me a brewery CPA in this area, this state. And lo and behold, it was taking our content from their website, their Google business profile, and created and it all basically saying this is a brewery account. They were the number 2 suggested pro in this market. So it's really important to segment like this and to create messaging around it, because you're going to feed not just Google SEO. And I know Google is testing AI search right now on their homepages. So things are being disrupted. Things are going to change. That is why these strategies of what we're talking about right now work so well. So you want your firm to be in those. You want to be the response. This is the best brewery CPA in Illinois. Okay. And you could go on with the different segments that we talked about. So again, thank you for joining us for the Growth Minded Accountant. I'm going to wrap this up. See you next week. Thank you.